on the News Channel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hey everyone, good Thursday night to you and welcome to Open Line here on News Channel 5 Plus. I'm your host tonight, Casey Mason, and joining me is one of our favorite regular guests joining us for Ask the Attorney tonight, where you get the chance to ask the attorney any legal questions you have, any advice you need, absolutely free, and it's all provided by Kevin Kennedy of the Kennedy Law Firm. He's still joining us via a distance, not here next to me, via Zoom tonight, so we're still keeping things at a distance, but it's like he's right here next to you tonight. Kevin Kennedy, thanks for joining us.
To be with you. I was a little disappointed again that we couldn't be there at the studio live, but we all understand and respect the circumstances in which we find ourselves. You know, I tell the Sunday school class quite often, I said, no one knows what tomorrow holds when we walk through that door, and I guess we're living it today. But it's always a delight to see you, Casey. You're a wonderful personality and a great friend, and I'm so appreciative of Channel 5 being able to continue to bring this show via Zoom. I had one of my first big kind of motion trials in Zoom today, and it's kind of crazy because you got the client, you've got the judge, you've got the other lawyer and his client in their office, and it's really, and we had a court reporter that still continued to take everything down. We've got a lot of bugs, but the wheels of justice are still rolling, and that's a good thing.
Overall, what's been your take on having to use this type of technology when you are trying to represent someone in the courtroom and you're not actually in the courtroom?
Wow. Well, you know, I'm a little technology challenged. And so I got a great guy here tonight with me, Jose Linares, and he knows everything when it gets down to all these kinds of equipment. So we had more people in the room. We were taking notes. And it's the one big challenge when we have a document to make presented to evidence. That's still a challenge because we have the document and then we'll have to scan it later and it'll be exhibits submitted later. But it is fascinating that if somebody had said a year ago this is the way courts would be operating, you would be shocked. Even now in Montgomery County where we are, we can go to the court. Many times they don't even let the defendants inside the courtroom. So everything's being rescheduled. And so one day there'll be a big jam of court cases backlogged. But quite frankly, it's brought everybody in the legal community into a whole new realm. And so the question gets down to, will it ever be the same? That is a really good question. People get used to filing online, and it's going to become a paperless legal profession. I do believe that. But I want to make this point too. At least 3 times in my 36-year career, I've seen one piece of paper literally save a person's life. So I'm very, very careful on trying to hold on to those papers. You say, well, how long do you hold them? If you ever needed it, you wish you'd held on to it forever. That's a good lesson to learn. I teach it, I preach it. My mother used to say, you can't teach and preach enough to your family. Keep those little receipts, document, and you never know. One more point, Case, this is a great one too. If there is ever a misunderstanding, a person can take a yellow pad just like this, and you can make some notes. And a person can always sign it. That piece of paper becomes evidence. So if you and I had a little agreement, even if I didn't have all the details, even though parts of it were ambiguous, that piece of paper can make a lot of difference. So that's great advice, and you use it. And you can remember Attorney Kevin Kennedy told you to do it.
I love it already, starting things off with free legal advice, and that's what tonight's show is all about. You'll see that number right there on your screen. You can call into the plus any questions you have. Again, this is all about free legal advice that you are receiving right here on News Channel 5 Plus with our friend Kevin Kennedy. And Kevin, we got some great news. The phone lines are already lighting up, as they do when you are our guest. They always do when you're here, Kevin. So even from a distance on Zoom, they're still calling in. Ready to take this first caller?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to News Channel 5 Plus. What's your question for Kevin Kennedy tonight?
Is it me?
Yes, you are on the
okay.
air.
I couldn't. Anyway, I have a question about. I live in an apartment above. It's actually a condominium above someone who has complained to our off-site manager. Basically, the off-site manager is here a couple days a week. We do have a board of directors, but apparently the complaint was made to the off-site manager that basically I was making too much noise. And for the longest time, I wasn't even told who was making the complaint or whether they were next door or, as I told you, they are actually down floor below me. But the complaint was made, and I checked back. They didn't. Finally they just said, "Hey, leave a note and see, what happens." And so I left a note and I said, "Hey, if you want to discuss this with me, here's my phone number and whatever." Never heard from them. And then a couple of times I found out they called, but I didn't realize it was them because I didn't know their names at that point, and it wasn't a Nashville prefix on the caller ID. So anyway, they finally left a message. The owner of the unit has never had any contact with me. This is basically her live-in boyfriend that's doing the complaining on behalf, supposedly, of both of them. I don't feel like I have any obligation to him. I mean, I want to get along with everybody. I want to do the best I can. I'm not intentionally doing anything to disturb anyone. But the complaints aren't specific, so that makes it a little bit difficult. And I'm just wondering if she, meaning the unit owner, keeps staying out of it, what rights I have or what rights he has just being a live-in boyfriend.
Great. Thanks so much for the call.
Yeah, one of the things you can always do in apartment setting, building and codes have a lot of control over a situation, and that's a government agency. Why do we have these government agencies? Because they are there and you can complain to them, you can report to them, and it doesn't cost you anything. They can send out an investigator, and many times just the inquiry from a governmental agent corrects a problem. Now, we already know that many owners do not want to deal with the problems that go with rental companies. So that's why they hire a rental company. In some places they call them hatchet men. What is a hatchet man? It's somebody that does the dirty work. Of course, the owner could say, I want this handled, I want this handled. And those people are paid a fee to manage. And of course, their job is to turn a profit. And what is the government's job? We always have to identify what is everybody's agenda. The owner would like to make money and not have any problems. The tenant would like to live there and not have any problems. Building codes would like to do their job. So understand all the parties, understand what their agenda really is about, and you try to work the system. So you've done a good job. You do a good job of trying to analyze and pick out the issues. In law school, you spend your first year just learning, how do I pick out an issue? So we've identified the problem, and then let's look at all our options. What are they? I can always hire a lawyer. A lawyer might send one letter. We're sending more letters right now than we've ever sent. Why is that, Kim? Because more people are trying to take advantage of more people than I've ever seen. And so many times you hold someone accountable by a letter. What does that really mean? I know I would take 2 steps back if somebody that worked for me received a letter from an attorney, because you don't really know what they are going to do. So really, that letter is a great investment, and it just makes people do the right thing. If you went back to what the Bible says, doing to others as you would have them do unto you, then that's a wonderful rule that we could all live our lives. But we know that when the economy gets a little tighter, people are going to fudge, they're going to push, they're going to do all kinds of things. So you've got to try to use your judgment, train your children, don't take the law into your own hands, be skilled, and use these governmental agencies.
Great. Thanks for kicking off the show tonight with that first question. Let's go ahead and move on to line 2, where I believe we have Angie with a question. Hi, Angie. What's your question tonight?
I would like to ask Mr. Kennedy, if you have this one child and you have a handwritten will and you signed it, is that legal in court? And can that child use that for anything needed?
You are really good. You are really great. Thank you for the question. It's right on par tonight. We're in the coronavirus. Never before have the lawyers can't even get inside the nursing homes to help people. So listen really good. In Tennessee, we have a holographic will. A holographic will is where that person writes in their own handwriting on a yellow piece of paper, an envelope, whatever, and they say that this is my last will and testament. I want to leave all of my property to you. In Tennessee, you can leave your children completely out of a will. I want everybody to understand this. A person can come in and do a normal will. That's what I want. I want you to go in, get a lawyer, have it executed. There's minimum, if any, problems that develop out of that. Never say never. So, again, if we had a holographic will, would I rather have that piece of paper or not? Absolutely, unequivocally. And we were sitting here and people were calling here saying, can you go get my mother a power of attorney? Can you go get her will? She is in there and we're so afraid that she may not come out. They won't let us in. Well, guess what? It's really a challenge. So for all those that perhaps there's some in the nursing home that can even hear me tonight or watch it, you can sit down and write it out. Remember, you don't have to leave your children. You can leave your children out. And if you have a husband or wife, the spouse is entitled to 1/3 of the estate. So even if you get aggravated, that's when you need a lawyer to know what your rights are, and they leave all their money to a friend. You can come see a lawyer and they could set that aside and get 1/3 of the estate. So absolutely, unequivocally, that little bit of advice tonight will literally save millions of dollars across who's the viewing audience tonight.
All right, we've got Charles and Christopher waiting on the line, and now we're going to get to Jackie on line 3. Hi, Jackie. What's your question for Kevin Kennedy tonight?
Yes, I was calling because I have a problem with the Internal Revenue. I got I had the Affordable Care, one of the insurances through that, and I didn't use it, but they gave me the tax credit. I opened up my bill for the Internal Revenue. I thought it was only going to be like $5,000, and found out it was $13,000. Is there any way that I can negotiate with them or any legal action I can do maybe to have it reduced?
Well, you know, what happened to you is happening to lots of people. We've even seen some checks coming in that were to deceased people. Well, how are you going to cash that? And if you cashed it, good gracious, you don't watch out, they're going to come back and they can charge you and say that you took these funds you shouldn't. So one of the points is, one of my law school friends became a multimillionaire and he was an immigrant. I said, well, how did you do it? He said, Kevin, don't mess with the IRS. Let's back up again. What does Kevin Kennedy say? Hire the best lawyer you can, hire the best accountants that you can. They're well worth whatever you spend. So again, if there's mistakes, and we have people send monies and they are mistakes, guess what? They will turn around and sue you. All kinds of things can happen. So I want to make a decision. Is this really my money? I would double check. I might even call the IRS. I'd call an accountant and say, call a lawyer. Is this my money? And if it's not your money, then I don't want you to touch it. So many of the scams that come through the law firm, people receive a check, they deposit it in their account, and then somebody in a foreign country wipes out their account. Wow, you go to the bank, and then the bank doesn't want to replace that money. So there is a million schemes out there. So a word to the wise. We're going to think about it, we're going to evaluate it, and we'll talk to some experts before we make a move. And even then, it's a risk factor. And if you don't really like how their response was, get a second opinion. It never hurts.
Great question. Thanks for calling in tonight. All right, now we have Charles on open line joining us. Charles, what's your question tonight?
I suffer repeated damages because of the unprofessional conduct of 2 outpatient agencies and 1 hospital. When I've called the licensor department, they say they won't license these institutions. Who can I contact to either red flag them or place them under investigation?
Okay. We're hearing everywhere so many people are losing their jobs, and the COVID, we're hearing some wild stories. The public would be surprised. I wish I could had time to share all those with you, because everybody says, well, we have a right, and we have a right. Guess what? Tennessee is a right to work state. That means I could hire you and I can fire you. That means you could hire me and you could fire me. Now, there's a lot of rules, and if these companies are breaking the rules, we have the Tennessee Department of Labor that we can file a complaint with. There's the National Labor Relations Board. You might say, well, what good does that do? They'll send their investigators in. We also have the EEOC, Equal Opportunity Employer. All those agencies are set there for a purpose, and you can call them if you've got a question. I didn't think they could do this. There's the Family Leave Act. We can talk, how much time can I get? And it is true, some companies break the law. And then you have certain rights under the law, but you're going to have a lawyer who's willing to go in advance. I'll tell you this, what else we see, you may have to be in the middle of taking depositions. Well, guess what? You or your lawyer is going to have to pay those depositions. And not all cases are financially worth trying to pursue. So I like for you to identify the issues, that they didn't do me right, document it. If there's other witnesses around, you can get them to write out on a yellow piece of paper. What good does that do? If we ever had to take their deposition, we say, is this your handwriting? Is this your signature? We can pin it down. And they say, well, it wasn't notarized. It doesn't have to be. Then they will either have to tell the truth or tell a lie. And if I had one that double-crossed, which we see it, then we just go hire a handwriting expert and we lay that down. They'll have to write something out in their deposition, say, write me this. And the handwriting expert will come back and say, this is the same person. Okay, we solved that problem. Honesty is the best policy in running your business and working for a business. Thank you for that question.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Keep it right here on News Channel 5 Plus. If you're waiting on the lines to talk to Kevin, hold tight. We'll be right back.